Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about the best way to record synthesizers into your MPC. Now this can be an MPC One, One Plus, Live, Live 2, X, XSE, doesn't matter. All these modern MPCs will respond the exact same way. The interface will be a little bit different in terms of the hardware, but the actual software that you see in the screen will be the same. So if you've been curious about how to record, say like a pad and have it ring out and not get chopped off at the end, this is the video for you. So to demonstrate the problem that happens, I have this little loop right here from the Jura plugin. And you know what, we'll just make it like 2 bars. So we're just gonna take a 2-bar example initially to start with. So let's say I wanna record a pad. So if I play an A minor chord and then let go, I have this nice ringing out sound right there. Now if I set the MIDI port to the MIDI Freak and I play it, so that's all fine, right? That's normally how the MIDI should work. By the way, if you don't know, I have the USB connection from the MIDI Freak right here plugged into the MPC One Plus. I also have the outputs of the MIDI Freak sent into the inputs on the MPC One Plus as well. And if I go over to sampler, I'm monitoring the input on there. So that's how I'm hearing the synth, and it's just plugged directly into the MPC One. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways that you can route stuff. You have multiple synths. You can get a patch bay to jack things in and out. But let's not get sidetracked. This video is about recording hardware synthesizers into the MPC One, so you don't have to have the hardware synth afterwards, or you can get a different sound. So traditionally, what I would do is go into the looper. I would grab a 2-bar loop of the MIDI that I recorded. So it'd be like this. And then what I have left is a cutoff sound of this pad. So if I go export into, let's say new looper sample, this is what it sounds like. No ring out, no effects or anything like that. How do we fix that problem? It's actually pretty simple. So I'm actually going to make a longer example for this. We are going to have 4 bars. So I can maybe have 2 chords here to show the difference. Let's just record this right now. So it's shifting between an A minor and a D minor chord and having this nice lush type of pulsing thing going on. By the way, I made this patch on the MIDI Freak, and if you want to know how I did that, I actually have a video on the channel, so check that out if you're interested. So we have a 4-bar loop now of 2 chords, and we are going to record that so we have the ring out. So to make this happen, essentially you need to give a couple measures past what you would want to record. That's typically what you would do in, say, Ableton Live or something like that in the arranger mode. You'd actually record a few measures past of what you want to ring out. So you have to do the same thing. And the question is, how do you do that in the MPC? You go to your sequence and you just expand it a couple measures, okay? Your loop is going to be going 4 bars or 16 bars, whatever it is that you have. And you're going to get a couple measures past that loop to then record audio, all right? Now we'll use the looper for this example, but I'll show you in a bit that I think the audio track is technically better. Let's go to the looper for this. So I'm gonna go to the looper, and now I'm gonna set the bars to 6 to match. So now if I clear this and hit record, you'll see. And the ring out. And very important to let it go the full 2 bars additional, or however many bars you set to let it ring out, because you'll see in a second why that's important. So I'm going to export this 4-bar loop, keep, and then we're going to go sample edit. So we have the 4-bar loop. Oops, delete those chops. All right, great. Now we are going to chop it into regions. And before we do that, there's something that's very important that we need to do. We need to hold shift and we need to press 0 snap. 0 snap means that the slice point, it will go to the next point that is 0 on the wave. And that helps reduce clicks and pops. It doesn't always completely reduce them, and you'll see that sometimes it's best to just let the sample play out completely, but here's one way of doing this. So I'm gonna go to regions, and I'm gonna chop it into 6 regions because there's 6 bars right there. And then I'm gonna select the last bar, I'm gonna hold shift, I'm gonna delete the slice, and then I'm gonna delete that slice. And so now I have 4 bars with the 4th bar ringing out 2 extra bars. Okay, so if I play that. I'm going to hold shift and I'm gonna press convert. And now I'm gonna say I want a new drum program. Now this is very important. You wanna say create events because it'll give you the MIDI of the data and it'll be aligned correctly to the grid. So you would say 6 bars because it's technically 6 bars and you say create events, and you say do it. And now track 5 here is a 4-bar loop. It actually has the MIDI set up right there to play this back. Now, obviously, we don't want 6 bars in the sequence. We put that back to 4. Also, I'm going to mute my MIDI, my original MIDI. One final thing that you have to do is you have to go into program edit of this new program that I just made. You want to change it from mono to poly. So I just went over one like that. You could actually do 2 if you want, if for some reason you're having memory issues or CPU issues. I usually just go to poly on there and it's usually fine. Now, if we play it, it should ring out perfectly and not feel as if it's being cut off at the end and then starting a fresh loop back over. So let's hear it. So that's the gist right there, recording an extra bit to be able to have some play out right there. Now what I did was record this in a way where I can actually stop in the middle of the loop and then it'll stop the actual playback. Like for instance, it stops like that. And the reason why I did that is sometimes you do want to be able to mute things in the middle of a track. So let's say for this. It's kind of interesting to do that. It sounds abrupt still, so it doesn't quite achieve the goal of having like, you know, a ring out, because you technically have to sample each note if you want them to have them ring out like that. But it is a way to be able to have a bit more control over a recorded loop when you do mute the individual pads. And depending on the synth that you play, you could actually have more finer control. And we'll get to that in a second. But you could actually add a bit of effects to this to help mask that immediate cutoff even more. So for instance, kind of helps. Yeah, so adding a delay, that's one way of doing it. Now you could just play the sample completely on the 4-bar loop and not even worry about chopping that up. And that is totally possible. So if you want to do that, you could, for the sake of an example, just go to, let's say, a new drum program, say right here. I'll go program edit, and we're on the first pad right here. I'm gonna go sample. 4-bar loop is what we have. So you got that. And then you go global. And then for the pad right here, where it says poly, you want this to be poly, essentially. So now you can keep on tapping this and it keeps making more right there. So when you have it loop, it'll naturally loop over itself. So what we do is just go into the step sequencer real quick, drop a pad right there, and then we should have the exact same thing happen. And it's looping. So that's 2 ways of doing that right now with a pad. And both of those ways achieve the nice overlap. That's obviously what you want. You don't want that nice lush pad sound to get cut off. Or let's say you just have a regular synth that's just ringing out when it's doing arpeggios and you don't want that to get chopped. Like, that's a great way of having that. If you're enjoying this content and want to support the channel beyond a like and subscribe, consider using our affiliate links. Our affiliate of choice is Zounds. We've been using them for years, and if you use our links through them, then it helps out the channel. So thank you very much. Now on to another example. We are going to, let's go back to the MIDI track here. And I'm going to switch the sound over to the bass sound that I made. I made this patch in that video, so check it out if you're interested. So we're going to record a little bass thing. I'm going to take off timing correction so I can have a little flavor in there. Okay, so we got a little bass loop here. Now we're gonna do the same process, but I'm gonna double the length and I'm gonna do a little performance on there so I have some texture that happens, but still have it ring out. Let's double this sequence. So we have 8 bars total, and we're just gonna expand this 1 measure. So instead of the 2 measures that I did on the previous example, I'm just increasing it by 1 measure. because the ring out is pretty short on this. Now for this, I'm going to use an audio track. I'm going to use it because I just want to give the example. The looper would still work because it's still within 16 bars. But let's say you had something that was over 16 bars or exactly 16 bars and you wanted to record that ring out. You'd have to use the audio tracks. So I'm just going to go over to audio track right here. And I'm going to rename this real quick and just say bass. So it names the file bass when I record it. And everything should be good right here. It's already input 1. I'm going to go to edit audio. Yeah, 9 bars already. So yeah, edit audio. Let's shrink this up so you can see the full 9 bars right here. So now if I play this or if I record it, I can capture the performance. So we're going to mute the original MIDI track right there. And then we're going to go back to 9 or 8 bars right here. So if we play this, it's still going to chop off at the very end. For instance, like if we just play it right here. Yeah, it goes a quick cutoff to get rid of that, that texture that was in there. And obviously we want that stuff. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to get rid of this. So I'm going to hit the arrow button right here. I'm going to tap on the audio and then I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to hit cut. Now the audio is out of the audio track. So if I hit play, you don't hear anything, which is what we want. Now let's go back to MIDI. I want to go sample edit and we're going to go to the new bass recording right there. So here's the bass recording. Also, once again, make sure 0 snap is on. Great. So we're going to do this a little bit different this time around. We're actually going to use the threshold. So if you go threshold, there's a lot right here. Seems like it did a pretty good job. Some of these got caught where it's starting the next one. For the sake of this example, I'm going to let that fly. But you'd probably want to go in and do some fine tweaking if you want to get this a bit tighter. Okay, so same type of thing. We're going to go shift, we're going to go convert, and we want to create the events, and we're going to say 9 bars, because that is what it is. So you go create. Now, track 7, you have this bass. Oh, I forgot to make it poly. Whoops, got to go over program edit, make that poly. Easy to forget that, so you got to make sure you do that. In fact, let's go back to bar 8-ish. Hear that ring out? Okay, now what's really cool about this method that's different from the pad method is that you can actually mute this anytime while it's playing. Maybe that's not the best example, but the idea behind it is that because the notes are chopped like that, you can actually mute them briefly for a moment and then bring it back in. And then if you do want that trail off chop at the very end to go with the beginning, it still does it. And it feels like a loop that hasn't been just snipped out of audio and that's it. I guess that's the ultimate goal here, is to not feel like it's just a loop of an audio that is just repeated one after the other. It feels like a little more organic than that. So that's the gist of this. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that if you use the audio track, what that does is it allows you to do sequences or loops that are longer than 16 bars, because the looper, while it's great, it is limited. It only goes up to 16. So if you have a 16 bar pattern or a 16 bar like ambient texture, then it's not going to be able to get the trail off. And you usually need about a measure to 2 measures, sometimes more depending on the type of sound that you're using. I would recommend to actually get in the habit of using the audio track. And then when you're done, you just delete the audio out of there. Basically, audio track 1 can kind of be this temporary holder of whatever sequence you need to capture for your synth. Can just drop into there real fast. You rename it whatever you want. You know, like you could say ARP like so, record the loop of the ARP, and then delete it out of the audio, and then go into sample edit and then convert it into a program. That's my recommendation, because the other benefit of this is whenever you adjust the sequence length, like say 9 or 10 from an 8-bar loop, then the audio track is also the same length, so you don't have to fuss with that. Quick caveat though, make sure you record the entire loop or the entire extra measures on there. It's very important because when you do chop it up, and if you do chop it up into regions, then you need to know exactly how long that is. Because if you go in the sample edit, if you chop a random length into regions, then they're not gonna line up. Now that doesn't matter if you're just triggering it once and letting it play out the entire length, then none of that matters. You can do whatever you want in terms of where the actual sample gets chopped or end, or where the sample ends when you record it. But if you do wanna have things timelined and also the ability to use warp, then you do need to have things set up in a way where it makes sense for the BPM and the measures that you're using. So that's why using the audio track, you bump up the measures, record it all the way through, and then you have the exact loop length that you need. You can warp it, you can have the right BPM already on there, and then it'll work. And just to give an example, here's what I'll do. I will select all of these, yes. I'm gonna say warp. Are we 120? Yeah, we're 120. Let's slow this down. Speed it up. Oh yeah. Let's go back to 8 bars here. That's the idea right there. One final thing that I forgot to mention about the bass is that we have this level of chops. You can actually do some interesting randomization type of stuff as well to kind of add some more character for each time, each revolution that it gets. For instance, I have it currently, let's actually bring the tempo back down to 120. So I have it soloed right now. So if we go to program edit, I actually have on the 4th page already the samples. Now again, it's important, make sure everything's selected. So if you go current, it only selects the first chop. If you go all, it selects all the chops and you start editing all this stuff. With that out of the way, again, if you go first page of sample, you can see all the different chops. Second page, some more adjustments. Third page, even more adjustments. And then the 4th page is this randomization thing, which is actually really freaking cool. What you can do is you can randomize the pitch, the level, the pan. Offset, I think, is where the chop starts, I think. And then you can also do attack, decay, cutoff, and resonance, and how much depth they actually give. Really cool stuff. So just to illustrate the point, let's play it. Max out the pitch. Too much, obviously, right? But it's showing that it's applying some variance to each note that's being played. Let's do it to level. Now how about pan? Interesting, right? Let's do offset. Yeah, offset's kind of unusable because it's like chopped up into an 8-bar loop, or actually 10 bars or 9 bars, whatever it was I did. It's going through the whole file right there, so not exactly usable. But you know what is really usable is the cutoff right here. So let's max out the cutoff. Also the attack. Let's bring this up to say 32. So the cutoff's too much. Let's bring that down. And now let's introduce some pitch wobble. Maybe 20? Also the level. Let's go 20 on the level. Maybe a little bit of pan. Just a little bit. Now let's speed it up again. That about does it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Hopefully the tips will actually help you in your sample recording journey for the MPC. I think it's a really powerful platform, and I've really been enjoying it, especially since I've learned how to do this level of sampling in there with the synthesizers, because I'm a huge fan of using hardware synths with the MPC, and now being able to record it to this level is kind of taking it to the next level for me. So hopefully it does that for you as well. If you enjoyed this content, a like and subscribe would be tremendously appreciated. And if you want to take it beyond that using our affiliate links, we also have a Patreon, and also we have sample packs on our website. Any of those options beyond a like and subscribe is also greatly appreciated. So if you do that, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. That's it for this. I'll see you next time for another one. Peace.